Welcome to the Investing Podcast, presented by Tusk Media. Now, for your early morning look at financial news and activity in audio and video form, here's the Morning Market Mimosa.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Morning Market Mimosa. Today is Tuesday, May 31st, and this is the Investing Podcast presented by Tusk Media. Cheers, everybody. Welcome. For those who don't know, this is something we do every morning. It's a little bit business, it's a little bit fun. If we were less sophisticated, we'd call it the Morning Market Mullet, but we're classy, so it's a mimosa. Cheers to that. We're going to have a good time with this show. We'll also check back in around lunchtime and at the end of the day to give you all kinds of market updates. But with that being said, let's go ahead and jump right into what's going on in the market. So as we look at futures this morning, not a whole lot's going on. We're coming off a 3-day weekend, a holiday. Nobody really did a whole lot of activity investing-wise on Monday morning for Memorial Day. So moving into Tuesday, we've got futures up just a little bit. The Dow is up about 20 basis points. The S&P is up about 14 basis points. The Nasdaq's up right around that. So we're looking at a lot of green, which is good news as you might expect. Gold and silver are down, but we've got oil also up, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit. But one of the big things that we've noticed already this morning is what I like to call nursery rhyme investing. So get to the office every morning, start browsing through all my kind of daily websites, whether it's the Wall Street Journal's website, Market Watch, Seeking Alpha, a number of these. And the thing that you keep seeing today on May 31st is the title that says something to the effect of "Sell in May, Stay Away." So rule of thumb, if it sounds like a nursery rhyme, which that does, it's probably not something you should live and die on when it comes to your portfolio. Now, there are times, there are years certainly, when selling your positions in May, walking away and leaving them are beneficial. But there's also times when doing that in January, February, March, or April might make sense. I'd go through the rest of the calendar year, but I don't want this to sound like a nursery rhyme itself. So we'll move on from that. So when you see those headlines, though, that say "Sell in May, Stay Away," be a little bit hesitant of those. Look into it, see what you're seeing in the market, or if you're like us, look at individual investment portfolio decisions, especially individual stocks, things like that. We're certainly not going to make a macro call, and if we were, we weren't going to be doing it because of a nursery rhyme. So nursery rhyme investing is something we try to stay away from. Something we're excited about is seeing the return of oil pricing. Oil pricing is actually easing up to around the $50 mark. Already we're at $49.65. For context, that's about as high as we've seen since late 2014. And if you're like me, the calendar pages kind of blur together, but that's quite a while ago. We're talking about 18 months or so since we've seen oil prices in that range. So we're starting to see a little bit of relief. Obviously, that's going to help the entire energy sector. In theory, in some of these companies that had to really get lean and mean when oil prices were much, much lower, down into the low 30s or even high 20s, they're going to start to look a little bit stronger if they've been able to survive. So that's a storyline to keep your eyes on. That's oil. The next thing we're going to talk about here is illustrated with this beautiful drawing of a cookie jar. Those of you who know me can probably tell that I like cookies. Cookies are good. We like good things. In the same way, we like stocks because we hope that companies that we own stock in provide good things. So when we start talking about share issues and share buybacks, an illustration I always like to use is this cookie jar. So a great way to think about it is consider that stock outstanding is actually the number of people who are going to have access to this cookie jar. So when you got a cookie jar, how many people would you want to split a cookie jar with? I'd rather share it with 5 people than 10. So when I start to think about share buybacks, when shares are being bought back, that's a good thing. And we've actually got that happening for a company today. Office Depot announced this morning that they're going to buy back $100 million worth of Office Depot stock. Narwhal Capital and its clients do not own any Office Depot stock, but it's a great opportunity to kind of make a learning point. So a great way to think about this is previously you had all of these shareholders, and pretend these are arms reaching into this cookie jar. You had all of those reaching in, trying to get access to these cookies, and a finite number of cookies, which again in the stock world are good things that are happening, whether it's earnings, dividends, whatever. Now all of a sudden, Office Depot has decided, you know what, we're going to buy that back, we're going to buy that back. So, doesn't necessarily impact the amount of the good stuff, the cookies, but there are fewer hands reaching in there. So that's going to, in theory, make that stock more valuable. Now there's all kinds of things you got to keep an eye on in terms of how much debt was used to buy back these shares, things like that. But at surface level, at headline level, that's a good thing, and we're excited to see good things happening in the market, even though it's the end of May. So Last thing we're going to talk about is something that's good that could be happening in your home or happening anywhere. SodaStream announced today that they are releasing a new application of their popular product, which again kind of makes soda, takes it to the house. You can make your own Coca-Cola, things like that, buy your little packets, get that fizzy water running through it. I don't really know the science, but it works. Now all of a sudden, they're going to be providing a homemade beer kit. So that's obviously good news for Americans who like to drink a lot of beer because the stock is up 10% in pre-market. So ticker is soda. Keep an eye on SodaStream throughout the day. That's your morning market mimosa. We're going to be back around lunchtime, kind of get you up to date with the stock market power lunch. We'll be back at the end of the day with investing happy hour. Be sure to leave us a 5-star review if you're listening on iTunes. Make sure you subscribe, whether you're on iTunes or Stitcher or Spreaker, or if you happen to be watching the video on YouTube, go ahead and like us there. I'll leave you with a disclosure. We'll be back later. Tusk Media is a subsidiary of Narwhal Capital Management. Ratings and reviews of Tusk Media content are not to be construed as endorsements of opinion, analysis, or services offered by Tusk or its parent company. The opinions and predictions shared here are our professional beliefs at the time of publication. We are not under duress from any of the corporate entities mentioned. This is not a solicitation to take any particular action. Although we are investment advisors, this information should not be considered investment, legal, or tax advice. We strive to be as impartial, insightful, and accurate as possible. We base our opinions, analysis, and calculations on information we believe to be reliable, but we cannot guarantee its accuracy. We can, however, guarantee that our opinion will sometimes be flat out wrong because of a variety of factors. Employees and clients of Narwhal Capital Management may or may not hold positions in the securities detailed and may or may not hold these positions in the future. A full list of all securities purchased, sold, or held during the 12 months preceding the date of this publication can be provided upon request. Unless otherwise noted, all data accessed via MarketWatch or the Bloomberg terminal. Past performance does not guarantee future results. A copy of Narwhal's Form ADV is available on the SEC's website, www.advisorinfo.sec.gov, or from Narwhal upon request.